Hi there. As you probably know, if you've seen other videos of mine, or if you've ever visited my website or my social media sites, then you know that I talk a lot about postpartum mental health. And today, again, I want to talk about postpartum mental health, but I want to focus more or sort of break the silence on dads, fathers who also may go through postpartum mental health struggles, and what we can do to maybe support them. So the mental health challenges that most new parents face, they do extend beyond the mothers. Unfortunately, the stigma is sort of started to be uncovered more and more, because there are a lot more debates about fathers and the effects that pregnancy and also childbirth and the whole aftermath of childbirth has on their mental health and on their mental well-being. Because they can really also experience postpartum mental health struggles despite not going through the same hormonal changes and bodily changes as a woman. And it's a shame that they still too often go unrecognized and undiscussed. But fortunately, there's more discussion on it nowadays, and I hope that my video helps us along. So yeah, I'd like to shed some light on the realities that are faced by dads regarding postpartum mental health. And why am I doing that? Well, there are a lot of, we'll do it in myths and misconceptions. There are a lot of myths and misconceptions surrounding this topic. So I'd like to discuss them, and I will also sort of try and delve into some statistics if I can still come up with them, because the signs and symptoms, they may differ. So it's important to identify and also highlight them. So, for example, a myth is that postpartum mental health issues only affect mothers. Well, I think we've already sort of uncovered that, because that's exactly why I'm making this video. So it's a myth that dads can come out unscathed. Dads often also experience a certain level of postpartum mental health challenges, and these can include things like PPD and PPA, postpartum depression, and also postpartum anxiety. And there's very often a lot of stress involved. You can imagine that seeing your spouse, your partner, your loved ones, that they're struggling during pregnancy or during birth, or that they're changing at the very least, the physical changes. That's the common signs and symptoms of pregnancy, but that can be hard on someone. And not everybody copes with change well. And that in itself, that can be stressful to witness. The fathers are not in control over any of it. Women aren't in complete control over their bodies, over their pregnancies, but they have a different sense of control over it than the dads have, because they can really feel out of control. And the same as women have, sleep deprivation, and that can really cause anxiety as well. All these changes that are happening or going to happen when a baby arrives, they're just not exclusive to mums. That happens to dads too, but they're very often overlooked when it comes to these struggles, because it's the mothers and the babies that is most of the focus is on. And another common myth is that dads should be stronger and unaffected during the postpartum period. But really, the reality is that the transition to parenthood can be overwhelming for dads too. And they may need support to navigate that new chapter in their life. At the end of the day, mums mostly stay at home for at least a couple of weeks after birth. And dads are the ones who are very often expected. I know that is very generic what I'm sketching here, but very often they are expected to pick up the business as usual. And that is at a time when business is really anything but usual. There'll be, like with mums, potentially there can be guilt stress, concerns over things, concerns over the baby, concerns over their mum. It's horrible to go to your work in the morning after a really stressful night where you've seen your baby distressed, where you've seen your partner distressed. And then you have to go to your work. That's horrible. So there'll be a lot of feelings of misunderstanding. They don't have any control. And that list can go on. Where mum will feel many of these for her own reasons. Why wouldn't a dad feel them for his own reasons? And aren't these feelings, like for a mum, a potential recipe for many different mental health issues, whether you call them postpartum mental health issues, or whether you call them stress or whatever? They are a recipe for that disaster, basically. And another myth is that postpartum mental health issues in fathers are rare. The unfortunate reality here is, and they are the stats that I'm hoping to remember correctly, but there are a lot of studies that show that, let me come up with this correctly, I think it's between 8 to 10% of dads that may experience postpartum depression. And I think that the levels, I can't remember them now, but I think the levels for anxiety and stress are even a wee bit higher than that 8 to 10%. So some statistics that I found online that suggest that 8 to 10% of fathers experience postpartum depression. That's really a very high percentage. And fathers must never be excluded from perinatal mental health screening. I think I've said this before in a previous video. Mums and their children and their babies are very often screened after birth by mental health practitioners, but there's not always room and there's not always questions asked to the dads. They may not always be physically there, but I think there should really be more screening of this, as they are often overlooked or dismissed, or maybe some questions asked, but then the focus goes straight back to the mums and the babies. Also, the timing of postpartum depression in dads can be different to mums, because studies have shown that postpartum depression rates, they really seem to peak for fathers within the first 3 to 6 months after childbirth, where for mums, they often come within weeks to a couple of months after childbirth. So the timing there is different. So be on the lookout for the first 6 months. And that's usually, to go back to the screening, that's usually when postpartum mental health screeners sort of stop screening as much, when they are probably only screening the mum and the child. Now, rates of anxiety and stress in dads during the postpartum period can range from, I think, 10 to 25%, reflecting the significant impact of becoming a parent. So really, ladies, bring your man along to your postpartum checks. Even if they don't want to come, make it a priority and make sure that the health professionals really take care of their well-being as well as yours, as well as your babies. Because recognizing those signs and symptoms of, postpartum mental health decline or issues in dads, it's just as crucial for early intervention and support as it is for anyone else, no matter what gender or what age. If they don't want to come along, that happened to me, my husband didn't want to come along, or maybe they don't want to open up to the doctors, then it's very important that you yourself are on the lookout for common signs and symptoms for postpartum mental health struggles. So I'll try and make a list of what you may see in dads, a dad who's maybe on the cusp of mental health decline. So first of all, think of things like when they used to have a lot of energy, maybe there's persistent feelings of sadness now. There's a different energy. Or maybe they are more irritable, feelings of hopelessness. or loss of interest in things that they used to love to do, in activities that they used to really enjoy. Or maybe there's a change in appetite, a change in sleep patterns. These are really very common signs and symptoms for postpartum mental health in any case. There can be fatigue, loss of energy, as I said that before. Also increased anger, more frustration than what you would normally see. Irritability is that. Frustration and anger can also be called parental rage. Parental rage. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but parental rage is something that happens. Maybe they find it difficult to bond with the baby, and that could be a trigger for you and your postpartum mental health issues as well. If you feel that you can't bond with your baby, but also when you see that your partner's not bonding with your baby, ask yourself questions. Why is that happening? And that's something that you could also discuss with your health practitioner. Another thing is a social isolation, where maybe they used to really enjoy social activities, or in more severe cases, it can be self-harm or even suicide. So you can see how important it is to be on the lookout for these signs and symptoms. In my own practice, I've seen several dads, and some of them were very reluctant to admit to why they were struggling, and some of them had simply not made the connection to postpartum mental health decline. And why is that? I think the answer at the time, and that's also almost a logical answer that I'm coming up with myself, is that the focus was more on the baby and more on the mother and not on them. It's sort of a societal thing that the focus of a pregnancy is on mother and baby and not on the dad, when really it should be on the whole family, also on other children, in my opinion. But hearing personal stories from dads who had experienced postpartum mental health issues, that's what inspired me to write this article in the first place, or to make this video about it. Because for a client to feel so disconnected from his family, he felt so disconnected that he was considering divorce, to just run away and give it all up. And in his words, he said something like, I want to give them a chance to be happy without me, because I can't make them happy. And that is so heartbreaking, especially when after treatment, they are now going strong. They're really growing together into the happy family that they always meant to be. I still stay in touch with my clients, and it's really wonderful to see how that dramatically changed for them. By accepting therapy, by having open communication and support from his partner. His partner was the one who pointed him towards my practice, thank goodness, because there was a huge shift in their family dynamics. It was a huge positive shift. And I also remember another dad who experienced significant anxiety. And the anxiety started while they were going through IVF attempts. And he was constantly worrying and feeling completely worthless. He felt like his manhood seemed to not be doing what it was meant to be doing. And that was making his beloved sad. It was making him sad. They wanted the baby and they were really struggling to become pregnant. So when they finally did become pregnant, the pregnancy was uneventful as far as I remember now. It was uneventful for her, but it was extremely stressful to him, because he didn't want to go through or put his wife through that hell of IVF again. He didn't want to go back to these levels of anxiety, not realizing that he was keeping them high by being so stressed out about it throughout the pregnancy. And then after they had the baby, he really struggled to bond with their baby. So you can see that became sort of a snowball effect of negative emotions. And accepting help and going through therapy has now given him back the family life that he worked so hard for to get. So, the detrimental effects of perinatal and postpartum mental health, they must never be underestimated by both mums and dads. and both for the mums and the dads. So if you are recognizing any signs and symptoms, whether you're a woman or a man or a husband or wife, a mum or dad, any gender for that matter, seeking professional help, consulting with a healthcare provider or a therapist specializing in perinatal mental health, that can provide that guidance, potential therapy and coping strategies that may prove to be so important in getting over those postpartum mental health struggles. So really what's crucial here is to break that silence, to create awareness by not believing all those myths, by acknowledging the statistics that I mentioned, and really recognizing the signs and symptoms and sharing personal stories, because that way we can help all parents, mums, dads, anyone who needs help, we can support them that way. We can help them seek the support that they need. So I hope I have opened your eyes to how important it is to a whole family dynamic to be on the lookout for signs and symptoms and to please seek help. And I'd be more than happy to help you if you need me. So take care and take care of each other. Thanks for listening.